Probably been waiting for this for a while now. Randy, could you actually tell Fabian what mic you're using so he knows? Yeah, Sharif's mic. Okay, awesome.
I need my paperwork.
Oh yeah, you need your paperwork. He needs his notes. He's got a lot to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. Just to give you a little idea, we're gonna talk a lot about cars. You know, Randy knows a lot about cars, and he has a very, very important car company that was absolutely booming to the north side today to talk about. So we'll talk a lot about that company without doubt. We also have a couple other topics to talk about. Also, if you have any questions in the chat, feel free to throw that in there. We're going to, have a blast over here for the next 30 minutes, 40 minutes or so, and dig into Randy's mind. You know, a lot of you might be wondering, what does Randy really do here? You guys see him a lot. You guys sometimes see him bringing in coffee. You guys see him sometimes talking about cars. So we're going to dive in deeper into what Trader TV Randy helps us over here with, and how, we'll talk about more exactly into what his favorite car is. I have a question about that one for him, and even about fishing. You know, me and Randy, or Randy and I should say, we talk about fishing quite a bit because the man loves his boat. Right, so we'll talk about his boat, we'll talk about his fishing. I'm sure all of you are excited. He's actually setting up over here. Randy, is Randy's mic unmuted? Yeah, he's unmuted and good to go. So why don't we get ready with the nice little camera over here, introduce our amazing friend that everyone loves on the show, Randy. How you doing?
Welcome. Good, pal.
Thank you for staying after hours.
Anytime.
I know it takes a long time for you to get home, so this means a lot for me.
Anytime,
means a lot for our viewers.
Anytime. Glad to be here. Glad to be here. We're going to talk about Rivian. It's been a good week. It's been a good week for Rivian.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with the stock this week. What do you want to hear?
Well, if you want to dive right into it, then let's hear it, man. Let's hear what you really got about Rivian.
Okay.
Do you really like this company, or like what's the? They had a 50% production beat this last few days.
I know.
Right? And Tesla came out with what, 80%? So my theory was, if a company as big as Tesla is coming out with 80% beats, and a company not as big as Tesla is only coming up with 50, you want to see maybe 1,000% or something.
I think we got a little bit of short-term hype here. I think they've beaten for the first quarter. Let's go back to 2017. Tesla was, Musk said this, they were 1 month away from bankruptcy, trying to get the Model Y out the door. Elon coined the term, production hell. Remember that? Here we are, 5 years later, and look where the numbers are. So yeah, they beat for 1 quarter. So they delivered 300 vans for Amazon to Germany. Meh. Okay, like honestly, they're not a mature car company. They've got work to do. They have to get over the hump of production hell. They got to do this. They need to endure the pain, solve their production problems. Don't forget, they've never made a penny on one car they've sold.
Right.
They've recalled just about every car they've sold. So they got a lot of problems that they need to sort out. Okay, this 1 quarter, positive. Short term, I'm bearish on this stock. I think there's challenges, there's risks. When you look at the structure of the company, there's value adds. They have a contract with Amazon. They have a contract with Ford. There's value adds behind the name and behind the platforms they have out there. They only have 3. The R1T, the truck, the R1S, the SUV, and the delivery van for Amazon. Let's get those production problems solved. Production hell is exactly what Elon said it was. Lots of little problems. Don't forget, they've had really serious safety recalls. Airbags not deploying. Fasteners not tightened. These are not minor problems. They need to solve the big problems and get to be a mature company with mature products. That's probably a year away. I'm a little bit bearish the next 2 quarters. Production numbers aside, if they can meet their 53,000 vehicle target by the end of 2023, okay, great. But if you got to recall half those cars, that's a problem. Recalls cost money.
Right.
Recalls mean factory downtime. Recalls mean products are leaving the door slower. So we got some challenges here. On top of all that, their cash burn is still to the tune of 1.8 billion a quarter. They have about 11 billion cash left over. That's going to cover production costs. That's going to cover recalls and their staff and all the rest of it. There's some moving targets here. I think the average price target was $24.50 between 20 analysts within the next year. Can they hold that? Again, they've got to cover a lot of their there we go. They got to cover off a lot of their resource problems and fix the recalls and fix their production hell. This is an immature platform with 3 immature models built on top of it. Go back to, again, Tesla, Model 3, Model Y. Back in 2017, these were immature platforms.
Right.
They've been through production hell. They've put the 5 years of work in, and now they're getting there. They've ramped up. Now they're exploring markets in different continents. Rivian's not there yet. Can they get there? Yes. Is there potential? Absolutely.
Yes.
They're well funded. They're trying to control their cash burn. They're trying to control their expenses. If they keep doing that, and if they can solve their production hell, and if they can get over the hump and get into a consistent production where you've got products leaving the door at a consistent rate and a slow ramp up, maybe 53 becomes 55,000 vehicles.
Right.
Maybe the next quarter it's 60. Let's keep those targets realistic and see where they can go. But again, they've got to solve their problems.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, without production, you're not making any cars, and what are you able to sell? Look at Lucid Motors, right? They're struggling with that big time,
exactly.
and they did also have a pretty good bump up on their own value in the price stock, so on for Lucid, with especially partnering up with Aston Martin. What do you think about that? Lucid partnering up with Aston Martin.
So here's where Lucid differs from the Rivians and the Teslas. In coordination with Aston Martin, for example, they're a niche car company thus far. Right. They're the upper echelon of, $195,000 for the Lucid Air, the top of the line model. Same with Aston. You're in a luxury segment. You're not pushing products out to the broad consumer base. When you target that sector, you've got to have a lot of extra cash despite low sales. So like Rimac, like Koenigsegg, the other hypercar manufacturers out there, they're a niche play. I think there's a lot of potential there as well, but it's an entirely different conversation compared to, the likes of Tesla, compared to the likes of Rivian. They're a different company with different products out there. Rivian's trying to be a mass market company. The R1T against the F-150 Lightning, against the Cybertruck. There's going to be competition. They need to embrace that competition and solve their problems. And if they can beat, this nice looking R1T, which has got a lot of great reviews, by the way. It even has what's called a pet mode. You understand this?
Is this the R1T?
That's the R1T.
Okay.
So the pet mode, you can leave your pet, your dog, your cat, your whatever you've got in the truck and put pet mode on. It turns on the car's air conditioning. And a big logo comes up on the screen and says, this vehicle
has a dog in it,
is protected, and the animal is in safe condition. Please don't call the cops. It puts it on a great big screen, so when you look through the window, the dog is safe. And it's a fantastic, it's little things like this that appeal. It's got great performance reviews. It's got great utility reviews. It's a truck. Can you tow with it? Can you haul stuff with it? Absolutely.
I've also seen pictures and images of a barbecue in the back of it, or you open it and it's a full-out kitchen. There's a little washing sink where you can wash your hands or whatever.
Okay, so
and it was like, is this a car or is this a camping glamping car? Like, what is this?
So they're trying to broaden the appeal. Is it a dual, utility vehicle?
Right.
I think the S and the T combined together are shooting for that category. They're taking Jeep's Q and going with the off-road models. They've presented an R1 S from an aftermarket company that's got the bigger tires and a lift kit in it and a bigger suspension. Go off-road, go camping, go explore the outdoors. It's been tested off-road, great results. The R1T, towing capacity, hauling capacity. My actually next door neighbor, his son works for Rivian, and the reviews are fantastic. He goes, the truck's really well built. Yes, they've got issues to iron out. They're working on it. Time is kind of critical here. There is a backlog of orders. Not as big as Ford's F-150 Lightning, but there's a backlog of orders. Can they figure this out in time and get those consistent production numbers without recalls, get them out the door, minimize the recall return, which takes away from their cash pile, and start building profits and start actually making money on stuff they ship? The 11 billion cash they have ain't gonna last forever.
Right. Payrolls ain't cheap.
Payroll ain't cheap. Production's not cheap. Recalls aren't cheap.
No.
Supplier costs have gone up marginally in the last quarter. They're trying to manage their supply chain. They've done a decent job of that. Is it Tesla's supply chain? No. They're working on it. Mm-hmm. Again, they're a new, quote unquote, new car company, but they're doing their best. But they think they need to do better in terms of production to get this out the door.
Now, if let's say we were to go off-roading in this, right? I'm just trying to put the screen up. Good night, Ramin. If we were to go off-roading in this car over here, or even in this one, right? It's all electric.
It's all electric.
I see a little bit of a sunroof panel over here. Looks like to get charged by the sun or anything. Let's say this car just randomly dies out of battery and the sunroof is no longer really workable. What are you doing at that point? Are you just stuck in the open in the grass?
I would, depending where you are, I would probably bring a small generator to, which defeats the purpose.
And then
of
what,
having-
hand crank the generator?
Well, a little gas generator to maybe power the car somehow, but you know what? If you're going off-road, you take the time to figure out your range. Your range anxiety off-road is, of course, escalated. If you're going camping, or going to a remote area, or going fishing, hunting, whatever you're doing with one of these vehicles, you need to figure that out. Can you get there and get back? If you're going to park the car for a couple of days and run accessories, charge your phone, run some lights, whatever, there's lots of off-road enthusiast sites that do this kind of stuff. They've got tents that go in the back of the truck. You know, it's kind of a neat idea. It's quiet. But if you got to bring a generator to charge the car to get home, maybe not the worst idea. Beats walking.
Yeah, fair.
But there's a lot of utility in these vehicles. Again, they're well made. They're well designed. They're trying to broaden the appeal to a larger range of buyers. This is not where Koenigsegg and Rimac and Lucid play. So they've got a great idea. The utility is also built into their vans for Amazon, which is why they signed the contract in the first place. So if they can deliver 300 to Germany and get, you know, I don't know how many thousands they signed for in North America, they got to get those vans out the door.
Right.
That's a guaranteed profit
Weren't
margin
there like
from
battery
from Amazon.
issues in those vans when they first got made and they
There
got
was-
tested?
There was capacity issues.
Capacity
So I think they
issues.
enlarged the capacity on the original design pack to bring it up. Depending on the route the van takes, you know, how far can they deliver? What's their delivery schedule?
Right.
How many times a day is the truck on the road? It comes back to the warehouse, it's loaded, it's charged, heads out again. So I think there was some redesign there, which may have pushed back the production initially. Then we have quality control problems. So all of that combined, now that these vans are actually being delivered, I think that's where they need to concentrate. 300 in Germany, okay, not too bad. If we can get 10 times that and satisfy Amazon, maybe it'll attract other delivery companies like DHL and FedEx and UPS and all the rest of them. Maybe they'll come on board and say, look, we've got a value-add product that's going to soon support the NACS charger standard, Tesla, which Ford, Volkswagen, and countless others have jumped on. You adding value to the product. With the value add there, the design's consistent, Amazon's on board, and you've reduced your quality or your in-quality control and your recalls. You've got a quality product out there people can trust, that businesses can trust. Now you're shipping and shipping and shipping. Their focus has got to be on production to make sure that this goes out the door smoothly and they're not recalling products.
Chat having a time over here laughing about about the whole, you know, buying an electric car to defeat the whole purpose of wasting gas, but having a gas generator while camping and wasting gas in a green environment.
I know.
So chat's having a laugh over there. I found that funny.
There's videos on YouTube of people driving electric cars and out in the middle of nowhere and they run the battery flat over a span of a couple of days.
Yeah.
How do you get home?
Exactly.
You know.
How far do you think, you know, we as a society are from completely just stop making gas cars and just now it's just being, you know, what someone in the chat said, waiting for nuclear power cars. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but like, you know, how far do you think in your idea or opinion that society's away from? That's it. No longer Ford is making gas-powered cars. No longer are these big behemoth companies, legacy companies, one of them just steps up and says, that's it, gas is done. We are no longer making gas cars.
There's two sides to this story. One is regulation. So governments in various countries like the UK and Europe and elsewhere, UK being separate from Euro, are implementing regulations that no new ICE cars will be sold beyond 2030, 2035, whatever the date happens to be. New cars. So auto manufacturers are now forced to say, look, we need to have an electric platform to replace those former ICE sales.
Right.
However, how many ICE cars are still on the road at that point? Millions and millions.
Good night, Sean. Get home safe, brother. Have fun with the sports tonight.
You've got millions upon millions of ICE cars that are still on the road. You've got heavy trucks. You've got a lot of other ICE-powered equipment, generators, for example, that are still in use, in production, that need to be serviced, they still need to make parts for them. I think it'll continue probably another 10 to 15 years as far as new car sales go. That gives the auto manufacturers the time to transition, time to develop technology, time to develop production, and time to reduce ICE production and transition to the battery world. But they also have to allocate resources. You got to train people to build these cars.
Yeah.
You got to allocate the lithium for the batteries. So resources to build these cars, the technological know-how. Some companies know how to do this, some don't.
Right.
So it's a slow churn to get from one side of the fence to the other. It's going to take time. That 15-year gap, 10 years, 20 years maybe, I think it might slip in some jurisdictions, despite the fact that they're trying to control emissions and pollution and all the rest of it. You got to be realistic. Do we have the people, the resources, the know-how to build these cars and to eventually transition to a completely electric world? I think we're still, a decade away or more.
Okay, 10 years plus, eh? Okay, I think I would agree with that. I think I would agree with that.
You got to be realistic. And there's car companies like Ferrari and Porsche and
they're not going to give up anytime soon.
And McLaren, who have a lot of legacy and a lot of pedigree building, these amazing sounding V12s and V10s, and that's their history. And to move to an electric platform, okay, they're doing it. They're building hybrids.
Yeah.
A pure electric play is probably on paper long-term somewhere in the works, but are we there yet? No.
No. I mean, have you seen the, there's this Top Gear episode. This is the old Top Gear before Jeremy Clarkson slapped one of the producers in the face and got fired for it.
Yes.
So this is the old Top Gear, and in the old Top Gear, they had the McLaren SLS AMG gas-powered, which was a silver color beauty. And then they had the SLS AMG electric, which was colored purposefully in this highlighter yellow color because you couldn't hear it. And it's like so silent, it just zooms past you.
That's amazing.
It's so much faster off the start because obviously the torque and everything is just like boom. And the car had to stimulate sounds of an engine through the speakers so you don't fall asleep because you don't hear anything.
I mean, there's so much soul to the sound of a high revving engine, and people have been enchanted by that for decades.
Love it.
And when you move to an electric, and I've driven a few of them, they all make this whirring sound or this little hum, and it's not the same. It's like, huh? And with a Tesla, for example, you can play any sound you want out of the car. You can play music or whatever, but they're trying to add that pedigree back into the platform.
I also feel like you have that power of the engine roaring at the steering wheel when you actually have that engine like
it's
you
a
can
different
feel
drive.
it in the
It's
steering
an
wheel.
absolutely different drive.
This is different.
It's an absolutely different drive.
It's different. Okay, let's ask you a different question here. This question is kind of about the market. So if you don't know the answer to it, you can just say, I don't know, and we might just have to do the research on it. This was something I was talking about a couple of days ago, and someone in the chat said, do you think oil prices will go down based on when EV takes over and gas cars are no longer there? And my point of view was, what uses more oil in the world? Is it cars, or is it just us in general, in plastics, in frames, in all these extra things that you see? Half of this office is filled with products made by oil.
This is true. I mean, ICE engines in general, this is ocean-going ships, off-highway vehicles, small engines, cars, lawn tractors, you name it, they're combusting oil, which is refined into gasoline or diesel or whatever. I think over time, we're going to see a manageable decrease in combustible fossil fuels. However, as you mentioned, they're used to make resins, plastics, millions of other products. They're feedstocks for all kinds of other things like fiberglass and whatnot. So our world of synthetic products that are based on feedstocks, which come from the production of oil, I think will continue. And being that cars, even electric cars, need lubrication. So you've got lubricating oils and all kinds of other things.
Very well put. Yeah,
right.
I didn't even think about that.
There's still a demand. Will it be as high as combusting oil? No, I don't think so. That transition, again, another decade. We still got lots of oil. We got loads of oil worldwide.
Right.
There's oil that's, you know, in places like Canada where it's not even feasible to recover it at the current $80 a barrel, whatever it is. But places like Saudi Arabia and Asia and Russia where it's cheaper, there's going to be some market constriction there, but I think we're a decade away. I really do.
I like it. What would you give me? Because I'm going to cheat on this answer. I'm the host. I get to do whatever I want. I get to make my own rules. Yeah, cheers. Let's kill this one and have a new one.
All right. I'm a Heineken guy.
Cheers, everybody in the chat out there. Whoever's having a drink, crank a new one if you haven't already. We got Heinekens over here. As you just heard Randy say, he's a Heineken guy. I'm a big Heineken guy, so cheers to that, my friend.
Cheers, buddy.
Grab a new one if you want, brother.
I will do that. Okay, let's have this question.
All right, so I'm going to cheat on this question. But the question is, what is your all-time favorite car and why?
Okay, so you gave me a sneak preview to this, and I had to think about it. And there's one key word in that question, and that key word is time.
Yeah.
You know why? Because great cars take time to design, to develop, to mature, to develop a pedigree, to develop, you know, that austerity where you find it incomparable to everything else that's been made. Cars that have a lot of legacy. Obviously, the car has to have performance and have quality and maybe have a racing pedigree or heritage behind it. And cars also have to have value. And it's not necessarily a monetary value. It could be a personal value to you. Cars that people absolutely love. And there's a picture. Oh, he had it up there.
I do.
I think in the last 60, 70 years, there's no other car that's more iconic than the Porsche 911 platform. We're now in the.
Were you gonna pick this?
Yeah.
You were gonna pick this? Let's
Porsche,
show it to the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Let's show it to them.
I mean, I'm a Porsche purist. The 911 is one of the most iconic and valued vehicles and names in the automotive industry in the last, since its inception, really. The car's done a lot for technological advancement in cars. There's been a lot of other hyper cars, and don't forget, this is still a mass-produced car.
Yeah.
It's not handmade.
Yeah. This version that you're watching right now on the screen is actually made by one of those custom companies like Hennessy. Mm-hmm. This one's made by Singer. So Singer makes these Porsche 911s, and gosh, are they beautiful.
I've seen one in person. They're amazing.
Oh, no way.
Yep.
A Singer one?
I saw a Singer. I saw the FAF Porsche Singer 9. They're FAF's a dealer in Toronto here.
Okay.
And they commissioned a Singer 911. It's beautiful. It's a plaid color. It's fantastic. Plaidly, proudly. It's there's a lot of heritage and a lot of commitment to a platform, to a name, and it's 3 digits. That's all it is. We're now in the 8th generation of this car. So much has been done in terms of technological advancement. There's no hybrid. There's no electric.
Nope.
It'll probably be the last electric car or last ICE car to be converted to electric in Porsche's platform.
Yeah.
Because it's so iconic. And a lot of other supercar companies have come and gone. And there's a lot of cars that are maybe faster or more expensive that have higher performance. But I think in terms of overall value and in terms of overall pedigree, Porsche's, it's a very, very iconic.
I mean, Joe Rogan calls it a purist car.
It's a very purist car.
Yeah,
and
right?
Again, there's Koenigsegg and lots of other hypercars out there. But if you've driven any version of these cars and pushed them to their limits, they're just a wonderful piece of automotive icon. They're a wonderful platform. And if you love to drive, and if you can appreciate the evolution of technology, the evolution of technology that's gone into these cars and the thoughtfulness, the racing heritage, they have an intrinsic value that goes beyond the dollar value. Yes, they're expensive, but even the classics have now gone up in price more than the new ones you can buy now. They're an amazing platform. It is my all-time favorite car. There's 27 models of the current Porsche 911 generation, 27.
Okay.
But you can pick and model one to your own taste. You can have an absolute signature Porsche. You can change the stitching. You can have paint to sample. You can have any color you want, and I mean any color. There's over 6,700 issued colors.
How long does that take though to like produce something so customizable? Like is that still
you wait
the
for
same?
it. You wait for it.
You have to wait for it. Right?
There's very rarely that two 911s leave the factory new that are the same in any one fashion. Very rarely. It does happen, but not very often.
Okay.
So the customization and the personality that you can build as a new buyer into the car is endless. It really is. You can have anything you want.
That's exactly what I hear. People in the chat always make fun of me for like, public transiting all the time. I'm gonna use this as an excuse. When I was younger, I said my first car, if I ever happen to buy one, it's got to be a Porsche 911. Yep. And now that I remember that dream of mine, I'm going to use that as an excuse as to why I take the public transit.
There's a great commercial that came out in the early 2000s, I believe, and it's a kid skateboarding. No, he's in school, and he's looking out the window. He's bored, and the teacher's babbling on, and he's looking out the window, and a Porsche 911 drives by real slow. So after school, he goes by and finds the dealership.
Yeah.
Goes in, asks the sales guy to look at the car. The sales guy opens the door. He goes, "Can I sit in it?" He goes, "Sure." Sits in the car, looks around. He goes, "Can I have your business card?" He goes, "Sure." He goes, "I'll be back in 20 years."
That's it.
They fast forward to 20 years. Kid walks into the dealership, buys his first 911. It's something you strive for. There's so much it's evolved in this platform. Again, with other car companies too. Technological advancements and weight reduction and performance. But that natural evolution over 60 years, like, come on. It's something to behold. If you've looked at the old ones versus the new ones, they're vastly different.
Yeah.
But the soul of the car is still there.
Yeah. I mean, my answer was going to be the Porsche too. It's always been the Porsche for me. I'm sure the chat's heard it for years on the show talking about Porsche and my love for it. Nothing's gonna change. Even the fact that when people come up to me and they go, "Oh, that's a female car," and I go, "Okay, fine. You don't buy one. More for me." Right? but what do you think about that whole argument? Like Porsche is a feminine car, whereas like the Mercedes or a Beamer is like a men's car or a male car.
I don't care who's driving it.
Right?
If you look at Lars Kern, who's the factory race driver who holds the Nürburgring record in a 911 GT2 RS and the 911 GT3 RS.
That's my favorite one, the GT3 RS 4.0. Oh my goodness. If I see one in front of me, I might just have to rob it.
Yeah, if you love to drive, it's a driver's car. It's beautiful to look at, inside and out. It's a wonderful, wonderful platform. It's an investment too. They only go up in value.
Yeah.
So if you look after them, and I love looking after cars, I kind of do it on the side. It's a great investment long term, and you get to enjoy it while you're investing.
Exactly.
What can go wrong? Just don't crash it.
Yeah.
They're not expensive, or not inexpensive to fix.
Any plans for your next boat over there? I know you were talking about getting a new boat maybe.
Boy. So I've restored during COVID a 1959 Canadian canoe company Dart, which is a little 14-foot wooden boat.
Okay.
I should have put a picture up. That's fine. COVID's over, project's done. I'm gonna go enjoy it this weekend. I'm gonna put it up for sale. And I think I'm looking for a center console somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 24 feet.
If chat has a center console, you said?
They might have a center console, maybe a Yamaha, or I'm looking at maybe a Key West, for example, or I don't know, I'm doing a little shopping.
Everything you're saying right now is going right above my head because I've never properly been in a boat. Maybe I have, but like not like a real proper boat. Maybe so everything is going right above my head about these brand names, except for Yamaha. I know Yamaha.
Yamaha makes amazing boats and outboards and all kinds of other stuff. They make electronics too, yeah. I'm going to see if I can find a picture, but you keep talking.
But yeah, so Randy, talks a lot about his boats and also talks about fishing. When's your next big fishing trip coming up, mate?
Sunday.
Sunday? Okay.
Sunday.
Okay. I was actually hoping that this podcast that we're kind of doing would be on Randy's boat somewhere and we'd be fishing with him and we get to ask him questions while we're catching fish because apparently there's a lot of downtime during fishing, right? You're waiting.
Some downtime.
Yeah, so those downtime gives you perfect opportunities to shoot the gigs, ask those questions. But sadly, funding was not secured for that. But maybe next year for part 2.
We can do a Zoom call or something
Zoom
from the
call.
boat. There we go.
A Zoom call from the boat. Take Obi fishing, Randy, says chat.
I could take Obi fishing.
You need to take. Obi loves fishing. He's asked me to go fishing with him. I'm just scared. So I've been like saying no.
Nah.
But no, you should take Obi with him. Obi absolutely loves fishing. He's actually here right now, chat. He's hanging out, waiting for us to finish the show and go grab some beers with them and so on.
Can we switch to my screen for a second?
Yes, we for sure can.
There's the Key West. There's the Key West center console I'm looking at. It's a beautiful boat. It's a good size, good price, good for what we're fishing in small waters up here. We're not fishing in the oceans like in Florida or in New York State or wherever. We're fishing in smaller lakes. Biggest place I fish is Georgian Bay off Lake Huron, but this is kind of my neck of the woods. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, how fast does that thing go?
It's not about speed. It's about utility. You can walk around the perimeter of the boat. It's got big lounger chairs, and you can just have a sundae on it. You can tow skiers with it. It's a utility boat. It's kind of like a Rivian of boats.
Okay.
It does a lot of things.
Right.
You can see the rocket launchers at the back here. There's my mouse.
Oh.
There's little rocket launchers right there that hold the fishing rods and stuff like that at the back. There's all seats up here. It's a pretty utility kind of boat. That's what I'm looking for. I can take my family out in it and take my buddies fishing, and there's all kinds of different things you can do with it.
And that looks sick. Even has a nice little shade kind of roof on top over there.
Exactly. You got to have a
like
sunshade.
It.
And
yeah.
It's they're neat boats. So and I'm a Key West guy.
That's what it looks from the back.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And 2 engines and so on.
You can have one, or you can have 2,
Okay.
or I've seen big center consoles down in southern Florida that have as many as 4 engines on them. But this is more my size up here. But we'll see. We'll see.
Awesome, man. Randy, anything else that's in store? What is next for the main man, Randy?
I don't think there's much. I mean, I'm looking at some other car stuff this summer. I mean, summers are typically slow in terms of production, in terms of news. Generally, the fall is when auto companies come out with new models,
Okay,
new
I
releases,
didn't know that.
new platforms. So car shows start in October, November,
Right.
the big ones in Detroit. Then you have the
Toronto
LA car
one
show.
too.
So before the winter, they'll pre-announce new automotive stuff. October, September, you see new announcements. So I'm curious about new models, new platforms, new technologies, especially from car companies that are purely an ICE play right now. We have a lot of them. Mazda is one company I'm really following. Mazda makes amazing ICE cars.
Okay.
My brother has one. I really love their platforms, but they've yet to dabble really in even hybrids. They've got some hybrids out, but they've yet to dabble in the electric car market. There's lots of electric plays still out there. Will they buy their way into the market? Will they buy an existing technology or existing platform from somebody else like Volkswagen?
But they haven't started at all?
They haven't really started at all. Toyota fell behind last year. They've made a major announcement. They're going to have a lot of BEVs by 2030, as many as 30 different models. Don't forget, Toyota's been building hybrids for 25
Prius.
years. The Prius has been around
the
forever.
Prius.
But they never really embraced the full BEV platform. I think they were late to the chase on this. They're finally getting their butt in gear. They're trying to get this battery electric vehicle market into, but at the same time, forget they make millions upon millions of ICE vehicles. How do they protect that market? How do they protect that sales revenue while slowly transitioning from hybrids to full battery? So there's a lot of risk there. And if you're Toyota, the biggest car company in the world, or one of them, you need to weigh the risk there. When you're producing millions of ICE cars, you have that invested technology, the engine designs, the car stampings, all the rest of it, and workers and resources assigned to produce those cars. When you transition, it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
Volkswagen was one of the early adopters. They started 7 years ago looking at battery electrics. Porsche, Audi, Volkswagen, they've been making BEVs for 5 years now. Other car companies have really fallen behind, like Subaru, for example. They've fallen behind the wave, and I think that's going to affect their ability to move forward in a couple of ways. Number one, again, there's proven and existing electric technology platforms out there now. They could just buy one or license one.
Right.
However, that
MULN or something.
Yep.
Like cheap companies like Mullen could easily get bought up like that.
But if they got to pay license fees, that reduces their profit margin. Or now that battery technology has matured and designs have matured and they kind of have a better handle on how to build something in-house, their development time is a shorter cycle. That's an advantage. So maybe they're waiting till things mature, the costs are less, times to develop are less. That means their product to market is shorter, which means their transition time is shorter, costs them less capital. So there's various plays that are in the works there. But there's a number of companies that have, Jaguar Land Rover, Sharif and I were talking about it today, that have kind of missed the wave, the initial wave, let's call it. So I think there's a number of companies that have to catch up. Even Harley Davidson has an electric motorcycle out now. Honda, Nissan. There's other companies that, yes, they build hybrids, but a full BEV, not yet. So there's more to come. There's lots of exciting news coming, and that's what I'm going to follow this summer and this fall.
Right on. I like it. Your car guy to go to. I know you are on Twitter at Trader TV Randy.
Trader TV Randy. Yep.
Yeah. So go follow your go-to car guy.
Absolutely.
He's the one who actually hooked me up with the amazing trade on GM
I remember
when you're talking about all the COVID reasons and production problems that they were having. I thank you for that amazing trade on GM.
GM's got work to do too.
Yeah.
They've fallen behind Ford, I think, even. I mean, the electric Silverado is out, their pickup. You can pre-order it now. You'll get it December, January. Production started. But there's other platforms, high volume selling platforms like the Equinox and the Terrain, two of their best selling SUVs that have yet to be electrified. And I think that's where they should focus on. Yes, they were right in making the move of the trucks. They beat Tesla to the punchline. They're going to try and chase Ford, the Lightning, and get the trucks out the door. Ram, which is Stellantis, they have an electric Ram coming as well. Trucks are big sellers in North America, but not everybody drives a truck, especially in Europe and other countries where GM plays. So getting electric SUVs, small sports crossovers, getting small sedans out the door that can be electrified on a common platform, on a platform where you can build a coupe, a two-door car, a hatchback, a four-door sedan, a platform where you can build multiple models and brands on top of one common platform, reduces their costs, reduces their capital outlay, and gets a lot more vehicles to market. You can have a Cadillac and a Chevy and a GMC all on one platform.
Right.
You've got common components, and it's a lot easier to get these cars out the door when you have one recall. Of course, it affects them all, but if you've got one problem to fix, then all those problems are solved.
Yeah.
So, and Volkswagen proved this with the MEB platform. Toyota's going the same way. So if you have a common platform shared amongst brands, you reduce that development cost and the time to develop.
Makes sense.
That's important.
Makes
it's really
sense.
important.
Yeah. I have this fun story about Toyota. Not sure how much of this story is true. I believe I heard this in like a university business classes or something about how this one professor was trying to, go see Toyota production factories. Go look at the factories, and every time they would just get hit with a no. Why do you want to see our factory? We don't get it. Why do you want to see our factory? Eventually, Toyota caved, and they let my professor and his team of whatever research that they were doing, or maybe it was someone that he knew. Overall, at the end of the day, they let this group of people to go look at the Toyota factories, to go see how their cars don't have that many issues compared to other companies and so on.
Yep.
So they walk into the factory, number of humans working at the factory, one.
Minimal.
One.
Lots of
it's
robots.
a security.
Lots of robots. I mean, humans make mistakes. They get fatigued. They get tired.
Yeah.
We're human. That's how it is. Many manufacturers have moved to the Toyota model, just-in-time delivery, and the Toyota method of manufacturing was studied back in the late 80s by a lot of the other car companies. They reduced their costs. They reduced their capital outlay, their time to bring a new model or platform to market, the number of mistakes and recalls into products. So all of that encompasses the build quality of the product they're producing. That's become a mainstay in a lot of production assemblies now. And robots don't take holidays. They don't get sick leave. They don't require labor laws and all the rest of it. So and the unions don't like this either. The unions have pushed back against a lot of automation, but over the years, if you can have a robot doing the work of 3 people, a single robot can lift an entire car shell that weighs, 1,000 pounds. If you can do a lot of repetitive work with robots and take the humans into places like paint and quality control and design work, you're more productive.
Yeah.
So the landscape to build an electric car is such that there's less components in an electric car than there is in an ICE car. There's no exhaust and radiators and fluids, and so you need less components, which means you need less specialists to produce these components, which means there's less suppliers, which also means there's less parts to assemble overall. So you take assembly workers out of the picture to some extent, and robots can largely build electric cars from almost start to finish. So that's another transition that's going to happen. The third transition is the dealer network.
Okay, what's that?
Think of every small town you've been to, and there's a Ford dealer
I think that's
or a
what
GM
you were telling
dealer.
me about GM. Is they're all owned by GM?
Well,
or
they're not
they're
all
owned by dealers. Sorry,
they're owned by dealers.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a dealer on every lot in America, and every small town has a Ford or a GM or a Dodge or a Chrysler dealer, Stellantis. And these dealers are doing oil changes and fluid flushes and tire changes. And when you transition away from ICE cars to electrics, a lot of that service goes away.
Right.
So the dealers make right now a lot of money on
Service, yeah.
Especially the cars are out of warranty.
Upcharging service for no reason.
Well, I mean, cars under warranty, that's one thing.
Yeah.
Once a car's out of warranty and you need an oil change or whatever, then they make money on service. They don't make a lot of money on resale of cars. There's not a lot of markup on the average Equinox or Volkswagen Golf or whatever it is. And then Tesla came along and said, we don't want dealers. We're going to deliver to your door. If you need service, we're going to bring a truck to your driveway.
To do it there?
And service it in the driveway.
Oh, okay.
And now they don't require dealerships. I mean, still have showrooms. You want to look at a Tesla or test drive one or pick a color or play with the radio, you can still do that. But there's no service centers on big expensive real estate lots on Main Street in America. There's not a whole host of service people, in an expensive building that has to be air conditioned and serviced itself. You take a lot of the overhead and the capital away with the direct delivery model. And a lot of states, US states, they fought this. There was laws against it. And Tesla did their best to try and skirt around the issue.
We got live audience right now for this podcast, apparently. That's the first.
Cheers, buddy. Volkswagen's in the same with its ID models. So you can still go to a dealer and look at one. They may have one on display or maybe for a test drive. But when you order it, you'll do all the paperwork online. You'll sign all the forms online, and somebody will drop it off at your door. And I think moving forward, that's how a lot of car companies are going to go. That's going to put a lot.
I'll be honest, this is my first time learning that Tesla actually repairs cars like that. I actually never even thought about it. I didn't even think about how do these Tesla cars get serviced, because you're right. I've never seen a big Tesla dealership with a big service here now.
They have them.
Signs.
Don't get me wrong. I was at one just a few months ago. A friend of mine has a rental dealership across the road. It's in Vaughan.
Okay.
They have a showroom. They have a service center. You can get tires and get over-the-air updates and get anything else broken.
But as much as I see those Ford, GM, there's this big lot on my way to work that says Roy Foos or whatever, and he literally owns Roy Foss. He has 7 different car lots in there. It's almost every company that he owns.
Yeah.
And then each one has its own service thing. I don't think I've seen a Tesla one ever.
How much overhead is there?
Yeah, it's crazy.
So when you've got less components that fail, the only consumables on an electric car are the batteries themselves, wiper blades, tires, and because they regenerate it when you need to slow down, you use the brakes a lot less. So your serviceability on an electric car is down here, which means you need less service technicians, less space to do the work, or maybe no space at all. They bring a truck to your house. My neighbor up the street, a Tesla truck pulled up one day and they did some work on his car and it drove away. He never left home.
That's awesome.
Buying a truck and having a person driving it who's also a technician is a whole lot cheaper than having a dealer full of people and a receptionist.
Probably contract work too. You don't have to put them on a yearly salary with benefits and everything. You can easily contract a mechanic somewhere in some country to just, hey, I need you to go do this. This is my manual. Learn it, do this test, pass this test. If you pass it, you're a licensed Tesla mechanic. And anytime a Tesla breaks down, I could just contract this contract worker, ship him out to you, and pay him those contract fees. It sounds just easier, cheaper, less of a headache.
One of the articles I read last fall was that Tesla had contracted to some GM dealers to do minor work on Teslas because they had the facilities to do it. Tesla's service centers were a little overloaded, a lot of cars shipped. So if you're in a collision, for example, and you need body work or panel replacement or there's structural damage to the car, that's a different story. There's still a body shop involved, parts have to be replaced, the car has to be repaired physically and properly. That requires more resources. But for minor things like wiper blades and tire changes and maybe a detail, you know, there's a lot less to go wrong. Excuse me, oil changes and rad fluid changes and all these other things that ICE cars need, you don't need that anymore. So I think in the next decade, a lot of the landscape is going to change in terms of how cars are serviced, who services them, where you get serviced, and people like convenience. People want to just, you can change my oil in my driveway or change my tires or, you know, or I'm at work.
That sounds like
if I'm at work,
so much better than
they come to the underground,
driving in, sitting there for 30 minutes, or maybe one of them drives me back home and then I have to come pick up my car. Screw all that. I'm just going to sit in my boxers, watch my movie, come fix my car for me.
Exactly.
That's the best.
It's cool. So that's another change coming down the road. I think that over the next decade, that's really going to be, and that's going to hurt some people. You know, people are going to have to be retrained. The value in real estate that all these massive car dealerships own. Every car dealership's on a main street in America. Okay, there's thousands and thousands of acres of prime property and big, you know, it's pretty cool stuff.
I mean, Lucid has a dealership in a mall in Canada at Yorkdale Mall. Lucid Motors has a dealership. It's basically a little shop that just has Lucid right next to clothing stores.
Yeah.
And you can just walk into it, tell what color you want and so on. You can walk into the basement, test their little dummy car that they have that probably only runs around for 5 minutes a second and so on. It's hilarious, but you know, that what are they paying for? They're paying for a little spot in a mall, not one of those big land lots that all of these stores have. Makes sense.
And this is it. Roy Foss, how much properties do you have? So a lot of this stuff's going to change over the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of advancement in the people employed, the resources that are employed, and how we purchase our transportation.
Last but not least, I don't want to keep you holding. I know I already kept you past 20 minutes past the time I promised you. Being the petrol head you are, I would think that you are. You love cars. You know, you're a petrol head is what the title is, or
petrol head.
Petrol head. Are you pro EV or are you no EV? Like being that car guy, you know, the authentic car. I want to feel my engine in my wheel. Are you that type of guy? But because listening to you talk about EV, you sound very pro EV to me.
I'm torn. I own a nice car. It's a Porsche. I love the sound. I love racing heritage. I love vintage cars. But I've driven a lot of EVs, and they're fun.
Yeah?
And they're fast.
Okay.
They're crazy technology. There's a lot to come. It's exciting. But we're leaving a legacy behind.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of pedigree and a lot of history and a lot of, as I said before, value to where we've been versus where we're going.
Yeah.
And as we get older and as we transition to these two new technologies, you know, 100 years ago, we were going from a horse and buggy to ICE engines, you know, and now we're moving to electrics. There's a lot to be excited about. And it really is something to behold. And it's go drive one. Go drive a couple and you tell me what you think.
Yeah.
I think at some point in our tenure, we won't have a choice.
Right.
ICE cars will eventually go away. They'll be rare. They'll still be around, vintage cars and vintage car shows and the culture with those. But I think the norm will become that everybody starts to drive electrics over time.
Right.
How much time that is? Remember I said time?
10 decades, but yeah,
time
I
is
agree.
Time is a thing, and we can't control it.
No.
So give it time, but enjoy the ride.
I love it. I love the answer. And I don't think I can disagree with everything you just said there. Even me being the petrol head that I claim to be, I think, you know, with times you got to learn to change, not get stagnant, adapt or die is what I said today on the show. You got to adapt or die. You got to learn to love the things that are gone and learn to love the things that are coming in the new life. Thank you, Randy, for coming in. Enjoyed every single minute of it. Hopefully the chat did too. Chat saying Randy the legend, Corvette car clubs all over USA. We know how Corvettes in America is.
Fantastic car.
Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed this wonderful episode of a lot of car talk. Rivian, he gave us a lot of great input on Rivian, on what to look out for the next few quarters, and is that stock price really worth it for where they are right now? So thank you for all that outlook, Randy. Thank you for all that input. Did you want to leave the viewers with anything else, and then we're gonna wrap it up for tonight?
No, I think we're good.
I think we're good. So chat, make sure you come tune in every single day, 8:30 till 4 o'clock. Oh, that's Randy. Let me go to this screen. Make sure you tune in every single day from 8:30 till 4 o'clock. We host a live day trading stream where we take live positions every single day, even news articles if you miss out about anything that's moving around. This segment of the past 4 o'clock show, the after party as I call it, was sponsored by Day Trade the World. If you want to open an office or want to be in an office like the one you see behind you, go to DTTW.com. That's daytradetheworld.com and learn more about it. Bears vs. Bull, the #1 moderator out there. And all you viewers, the #1 viewers. Thank you for joining. Have a great weekend. See you guys next week, Monday. Peace.